Dragon Ball Z Sagas, released in 2005 by Avalanche Software, is a less than stellar beat 'em up. This game was essentially a last hurrah for American Dragon Ball Z game developers, being the first and last console game to be developed on North American soil after a long string of lackluster portable releases, including The Legacy of Goku and Taiketsu. But I will admit, I've had my share of fun with this game in the past. Where the game suffered from damage sponge enemies and unfair difficulty, the game also has some cool features such as 2-player co-op and the ability to play as a wide assortment of characters through the game's pendulum mode, unlocked after finishing the game. Here you can select your regular characters, including various versions of Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, and Trunks, and bonus characters Tenshinhan, Yamcha, Bardock, and Broly. Now, this mode set off a lot of green flags for me. Games with enemy characters that contain a lot of animations or game states usually have debug modes built in to allow the developers to test their enemy characters with controller input. And this pendulum mode seemed like the perfect sandbox to activate them with. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, I've done a video on hacking Dragon Ball games before, and having done something similar with Dragon Ball Z Budokai, I felt confident I could achieve this pretty quickly. And so for this process, we're going to be using Cheat Engine tied into the PC SX2 emulator. This software, Cheat Engine, essentially allows you to monitor memory for applications and freeze values at specific locations. The hardest part of this process is finding the exact location and value in memory that you need to freeze. You'll typically do this through a series of sequential conditional searches, and so having an idea of the expected value of your target is very important. I started the process here by testing the character select. A tried and true formula is to check for incrementally increasing values as you scroll through the list of characters, this being your character value. Every time you click right on your controller, you expect that value to increase by 1. And every time you click left on your controller, you expect that value to decrease by 1. And once you find that, you'd move it beyond the bounds that the value is currently locked to trigger unplayable characters, at least in theory. Now, surprisingly, this approach did not yield any hits, and that's because the index of these characters is not sequential in the way you'd think. You'd expect that with 5 Gokus, the Gokus in the selection menu would be indices 0 through 5. But that is not actually the case. I was able to look into the ROM itself and find a list of character files, each corresponding to specific versions of each character. And this list is ordered in a way that the game expects. And so we learned that between Gokus 1 through 5 is a Captain Ginyu actor, specifically the version of Goku that was swapped with Ginyu. And random enemy character files are dispersed in between our major playable characters. This would have been tough to figure out without this list that we found. Now that we have a table of indices that corresponds to each character, we can easily search for the specific character value that is set when we select a character. I narrowed this down by jumping back and forth to the same level with different characters selected and searching for the expected value. After a few minutes of looking, I was able to find the right memory location and freeze it. Now, no matter what the game tries to change its value to, when we select a character in the game, Cheat Engine will keep it at our target value. And so, as you can see, even though I selected Goku, Jace is the character that is loaded into this level. Now, there's a major caveat to this method. Characters can only be loaded in levels they already exist in. So I'm able to have Jace fight Jace because you fight the Ginyu Force at this level. Now, why is this? Because the game has to load in all of the assets for every character. And we might be able to change the character that the game is set to look for a specific level, but we can't change the game to load in that character's specific game data, or at least not easily. In this case, we're taking advantage of the fact that all the assets for the given enemy character are already loaded in memory when you start that specific level. So not exactly the open sandbox you might expect. You can't have Cybermen versus Perfect Form Cell or anything like that. But you can still get some pretty fun mirror matches like Frieza versus Frieza, or have the Cybermen rebel against their own kind. It's also cool to control some of the Saga's original enemies, such as these prototype androids, or Soba, or these like beefed up Cybermen. I was also able to take control of Dende, to my surprise, who's a NPC you defend in Namek. When controlling Dende, he moves slow as a snail, even when flying, and he doesn't have any attacks or attack animations, so using one will crash the game. There are also 2 presumably unused enemies in the game, with slots listed under the names Prototype 5 and Prototype 6. Prototype 5 is apparently a tiny drone, which can be loaded into the fight between Super Saiyan Vegeta and Android 19. It strangely has your regular moves and combos, but your character is still just a tiny droid bot. Prototype 6, for some reason, gets furthest loading in the fight against Super Saiyan Goku and Frieza, so perhaps this was the area it was meant to be loaded into. Kinda doubtful though, given the other prototypes exist only in the Android arc, but that's just how the game reacted. I also extracted the portrait associated with this specific enemy, Prototype 6, and it's a portrait of Goku, weirdly enough, so I have no idea what's going on in that case. Now, in terms of recreating this hack yourself, I don't have an easy way of distributing this cheat like through a GameShark code or anything. PCS X2's memory viewer, as far as I know, doesn't allow you to do conditional memory searches, which means finding the exact memory location would take forever. And at the end of the day, you are still playing Dragon Ball Z Sagas, and I don't think even using unplayable characters is enough to make this game a masterpiece or anything. But still, it's always a fun novelty to get access to stuff that developers never intended you to touch. Anyway, I hope you like this video. I used to do a lot of Dragon Ball hacking in the past, and trust me, it can get way wackier than this. If you want to see more of this type of content, please make sure to like this video, subscribe. It goes a long way in terms of inspiring me to make more videos and figuring out what kind of stuff you guys like to see. Okay, bye.